Here we are talking about air-dried food and why it's good for you and your pet.
Love it. Welcome to Toni Unleashed, the podcast where we unleash the truth about all things pets.
Our research and anecdotal evidence matched with pet expert interviews will help you help your pet thrive.
We are here to answer questions, divulge information, and spread awareness about what's really going on in the world of pets.
I am your co-host, Emily Taylor, pet nutrition enthusiast.
And I'm Toni Shalaski, owner of Healthy Pet Products with 3 locations in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, and recently expanded to Port Charlotte, Florida.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Toni Unleashed, the podcast. As we discussed in episode 4, the hierarchy of feeding, there are different categories of feeding these days. And today we're going to talk about air-dried food, which is third best?
Fourth best?
Fourth best?
And this is in our opinion.
Okay, so frozen raw first, freeze-dried we think is second, gently cooked third. So that puts air-dried in the 4th position. So,
and that's above dehydrated. And I think we said because it does not have heat.
Correct. It's definitely a niche category. And I have to say it's a niche
because it's expensive.
Yes. It's very expensive. So we'd like to shed some light on this category of feeding today with you. The episode is going to be kind of a 2-part episode because we're just going to explain air-dried and then have an awesome interview with Ziwi Peak. And this is, of course, a company that manufactures air-dried food. One of the only.
Yeah. And I think the point of the first part of it is to talk about it from the perspective of pet owners and retail. And then they'll talk about it from the perspective of, food and why they do it and their passion behind it.
Yep.
We like air-dried food so much because it's of its palatability, I would say, because almost all of our pickiest eaters will enjoy air-dried food. It is super palatable because of the process, which is going into a drying chamber that circulates air. And because of this air circulation and the evaporation, it retains more nutritional value, moisture, and texture compared to the other leading kibbles out there. The air-dried food is also typically more of a limited ingredient diet and contains a lot higher of a meat value and protein source. From working in the pet stores, I've almost never seen a really small picky eater not take an air-dried Ziwi Peak treat.
Yeah.
Especially some of their stinkier ones that have like tripe in it or mackerel or some of those stinkier proteins because it maintains more moisture than you would from a dehydrated food. So there's texture there. There's mobility in the food itself, and it pairs really well with moisture or water.
And higher meat value also equates
Always
to lower starch load.
Yep.
Which is key. So from a retail perspective, what I like about air-dried is that it doesn't take up freezer space because our freezer space is very valuable for the raw food, the raw bones, body parts, and some raw frozen supplements that we carry. And the shelf stability with an air-dried food means it's very highly digestible, very high nutritional value. We always recommend adding some type of hydration to the food, such as bone broth, goat's milk, water. It increases palatability, increases absorption of nutrients, and ensures your dog is hydrated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It also does not need to be refrigerated once it's open.
Right. Good point.
Which is really nice. And usually when you have food overall in general that is less processed, you don't feed as much of it. And that is important to know because there's usually going to be a higher price point to these less processed, more natural, high protein foods.
But you feed so little of it, it's really hard for the human to get past the visual part of that, I feel.
Yeah.
So we do really want to stress if you're feeding only air-dried food, you really do have to follow the bag directions and the feeding instructions.
Oh, that's such a good point. I'm glad you
brought
brought that up.
Or else you're going to end up with a fat dog or a fat cat.
And I'm going to bring this up again, and I know we've brought it up before, but I think repetition is key. Bioavailability. And when you have a food that's less processed, it's going to be easier for the body to absorb it, use it, turn it into energy, which is going to be a leaner, stronger dog with a better skin and coat. Also, air dried, I think, is really awesome and a great source of treats, using them as treats for you have your puppies, you have some like really active dogs like your Australian Shepherds, your German Shepherds that are kind of always in training day to day, your dogs that need mental stimulation. This is a great way to feed them multiple small meals throughout the day, but feed them something that's complete and balanced and nutritionally friendly, rather than just like a biscuit treat or a sugary treat or something. So you can use this during the day when you're doing crate training in a Kong, when you're using puzzles, snuffle mats. You can use them when you're on walks to help with reactivity, and you know that your dog is benefiting from the treat that they're getting, and they also really enjoy it. So it helps build your relationship there. And that also helps with gut health too. If they're having multiple small meals a day and they're ingesting it, in rather than like a big load at once, their body's going to be able to digest it and absorb it a little bit easier.
We do have a lot of trainers that come in and buy the full size bag as training treats.
I mean, I used a Ziwi Peak lamb and tripe specifically to get my very big dog desensitized to the cat. Did it take 4 months? Yeah. But like anything, consistency and positive reinforcement. But that was the one thing that turned her eye contact away from the cat to the treat and the command.
Wow.
Ziwi Peak. And fed her less at the other meals. So, I would do a big, our normal raw meal during the day, treat during the day to desensitize her to the cat, and then a really small meal at night because she had already had some of those calories in that food during the day. Yeah.
So I think it's also important to mention that most air dried foods are a complete and balanced meal. Ziwi Peak is a complete and balanced meal, can be fed alone. If you find that it is cost prohibitive, it can be added to any type of food as a topper to get your dog or even cat interested. It's great to travel with. Especially if you're a raw feeder.
Yeah.
Great to travel with. And
it's light too.
Yes, it's light. It's packable. It has a resealable bag. I always keep a bag of Ziwi Peak in the cupboard because in case I forget to thaw, I've got it ready to go. It's also good to occasionally still have it in their diet so that when it is time to pick up and go and travel with the dogs, they're used to it. It's still, part of them in their system. So, many, many ways to use this excellent food.
Yeah. And I think, if you feel like you're at your wit's end with a picky eater or, an older dog and you haven't tried air dried, say give it a try.
I mean, it literally smells like jerky, and the texture of it is even square little pieces of jerky.
So it's great for senior dogs too that may not have a lot of teeth. It can break really easily into smaller pieces, hydrates really well.
Yep.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. Can't say much more. So we really are excited to interview
Ziwi Peak. Yeah, they're a New Zealand company, and they have canned food too. So, yeah, we sell a lot of it, and they'll take it from here.